Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today is our first weekly user suggested deck list, and so a couple of videos back I asked you guys to leave a comment with a deck list that you wanted to see me showcase, and then whichever one got the most likes was the one that I was going to showcase. So if somebody wanted to be a troll and they sent me all 6 cost cards or all 1 cost cards, I'm going to try it out, try to make it work as best as possible. So this week's suggestion came from a user named Aaron Bailey, and Aaron said that they'd like to see a deck that gives the opponent negative cards. So things like Hazmat, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Spider-Woman, Viper, potentially, just something that involves negating the power on our opponent's side. And so this is the suggestion that had the most likes, it had the most comments, it had the most kind of debate around it. And so this is the deck list that we are going to showcase for this first week. Since we are using Aaron Bailey's suggestion for this video, they are going to get a link to view the video early. Now typically this is something that is reserved for our tier 3 channel members, but since we are showcasing their deck list, I figured it was only fair to give them that benefit. And so before we jump into the deck list, I think because we are showcasing a Spider-Woman, a Hazmat style deck, and this may telegraph kind of what kind of deck we're running to our opponent, but I think we make the switch to the hair avatar. It's the Spider-Woman. I don't know why I get a kick out of it being off-centered. Like, how does that happen? But I get so much of a kick out of it. So we're gonna switch to the hair avatar. And then we have our junk deck. We have our user suggested deck list, and they gave quite a few cards, so the parameters were pretty clear. We had about 6 cards that we needed to work with, but we still had some flexibility to make it our own. All right, so running through the deck list and what we have. So first up, we have the Hood. The Hood is going to be a great card, a great target for our Viper, or to get hit with Carnage. That way we can negate that negative effect of the Hood. We have the upside of having a cheap, powerful unit, which is something that most Debrii or Hazmat style decks lack. We have the amazing Hazmat. So Hazmat a lot of times feels really underwhelming to use, but with this deck list and with us sending a whole bunch of junk over onto the opponent's side of the board while having very few pieces on our end, Hazmat is able to make some pretty cool swings. When testing this deck list, I made a pretty cool Hazmat Spider-Woman turn 6 play that was able to swing 2 lanes in my favor, and we were able to pull out the win. So there are some definite upsides or potential plays with our Hazmat here. Next up, we have Carnage. So Carnage is something that we added in, and he's gonna have a couple of cool uses. He's gonna be able to either eat or destroy the negative Hood, or eat or destroy, let's say we get squirrels on our end of the board. Let's say we drop Debrii, we wanna destroy the Debrii rocks, and we dropped Hazmat early. We can then use Carnage to negate that downside from Hazmat, or maybe we drop both Hazmat and Carnage on the last turn so that we can eat the negative downside from Hazmat and get the upside in a power push for Carnage. He's going to be very, very vital for these low power push games. Carnage is going to be able to swing that downside and turn it into an upside for us. We have Daredevil. So Daredevil is something that I don't know. He feels okay in this deck list, but you could also sub him out for something like a Polaris and sub Hobgoblin out for something like a Magic to extend your game further. Polaris would be used to strategically pull their 1 and 2 cost cards that you send their way over into one lane so that you can cap that out. You can cap another lane out with Doc Ock. That way you have a solid group of targets to hit. But at the same time, part of the request was that we run Hobgoblin. And to be able to run Hobgoblin consistently, I feel like Daredevil is a must. So this deck list is going to really focus on limiting the number of spaces that the opponent has to play in. And so it always becomes really risky to drop a Hobgoblin when they could cap out a lane. Typically, you don't know where to put Hobgoblin. But if we can do that alongside our Daredevil, we can then guarantee that Hobgoblin goes over. Ideally, it caps out a lane, and we can get some incredible upside from this interaction. We have Scorpion. So Scorpion is going to afflict cards in your opponent's hand with -1 power. So going alongside kind of the theme of negatively impacting the opponent's side of the board, Scorpion fits really well into this. So maybe he can hit some of their higher power cards. Maybe he can hit an Iron Man. That way Iron Man comes down in as -1. That -1, of course, is duplicated to a -2. And then if you hit that with a Spider-Woman, with a Hazmat, you can really negate an Iron Man lane. As long as they don't have any huge, large power push cards in that lane, you can negate it. So Scorpion does a lot of things well for this style of deck list. A card that we added in was Colossus. When you think about negatively impacting their side of the board, that is typically going to negatively impact your side as well. So Colossus is in this deck list because he can't have his power reduced. Hazmat is not going to reduce his power. We can throw him into lanes that negatively affect cards, so Negative Zone, Clintar. We can throw him into Jotunheim, and he's not going to lose power every turn. We can throw him into Death's Domain. He adds quite a bit of flexibility to our deck list here, and I think is perfect for kind of the idea of this deck list and what we're going for. Next up, we have Viper. Viper is going to be good at either sending them negative cards. Viper is going to be able to help clog up their board, make sure they have a limited space of play, and it's just overall a pretty good choice for the send them junk style of play. And then next up we have our Green Goblin. So Green Goblin is going to, on reveal, your opponent gains control of this. So if they have space, it will fly over to their side of the board and it negatively impacts their side of the board. Green Goblin is a great addition. He's a lot more versatile and easier to use than Hobgoblin. He checks a couple of boxes for this style of deck. He makes sure that they have a limited space of play, and he negatively impacts their power on that side of the board. We have Debris. So Debris is going to add rocks to each other location for both players. So this can help us cap out their side of the board. It gives us a target for our Carnage so that Carnage can grow larger. It helps clog up the board to give us more targets to hit with our Hazmat, with our Spider-Woman. We have Spider-Woman. So if this hits a full lane, then this becomes a 4-cost 8-power card or an 8-power presence. So it's going to negatively affect their side of the board by 4. It's going to positively impact ours by 4. So for a total power contribution of 8, which is pretty good for a 4-cost card if you can make sure that it triggers that way. So then next up we have Hobgoblin, which is a really high-cost, low-power card, I guess. Not high power. It's a negative 8-power card that sends onto the opponent's side of the board. This becomes really tricky. I generally don't run Hobgoblin in a Debris style deck list because it's too hard to consistently trigger. But with Daredevil, I think we're going to be able to sneak it into certain lanes. And then if we don't have Daredevil and we don't have a guaranteed play for our Hobgoblin, we will most likely hold on to Hobgoblin instead of taking the risk of tanking our side of the board. Then last up we have Doc Ock. And so Doc Ock is going to finish capping out their side of the lane. If it's empty, it will pull 4 cards in. If it has 3 cards, it'll make sure that it has that 4th card. And he offers a big power push. At 5 cost, 10 power is huge. And so if we play this into a lane that is already capped out by the opponent, we can get 10 power without having the doubt of accidentally pulling in an Infinite or something that we definitely don't want onto the board. And he can help us swing those capped out locations. All right, and so that is the rundown of this deck list. We are going to go ahead and jump into a few games for our first weekly user suggested deck list. All right, so first up we have Sky Sander. And as a reminder, guys, if you have a deck list that you want to see me play, leave a comment in this video. Whichever one gets the most likes will be the one that I run in next week's video. And so we're gonna go ahead and in the first turn, we do have our Debris, our Hazmat, Carnage, Scorpion. We have some great early game cards that we're gonna be able to drop onto the board. And next turn, we're gonna be able to do both a Hood and a Viper combo to send some junk their way. We can start sending junk their way early. And so the first turn, we're going to play Scorpion. That is going to negatively impact their hand, which we got a huge upside of being able to impact 6 cards because they dropped Sentinel and it went back into their hand. With Scorpion, we just got basically an 8-power push because we impacted so many cards. Very lucky. Very nice situation there. So we're going to go ahead and play the Hood and Viper on turn 3. That is going to send some junk their way. Ooh, so they played Wave. What are you running, my friend? With a Sentinel, with Wave. I guess we'll have to see. Having a Hobgoblin right here would have been phenomenal. I think they probably play an Odin here, right? They want to limit the amount of junk that we're able to send them. If they play an Odin here, we can do a Debris that is going to clog up this way. That way they don't get the upside from Atlantis. That'll finish capping out Nova Roma. And then next turn, on turn 5, we can do something like a Hobgoblin and a Carnage to fully destroy a lane. I think is the ideal. So is this an Odin? And if it is an Odin, then we won't be able to do both. Okay, so it's a Doc Ock, which is not great. Oh no. You're so mean. Sky Sander, why would you do this to us? So we drew into Green Goblin there, unfortunately. Very, very unfortunately. They have us beat in the number of cards here, and dropping Hazmat this early seems like a poor decision. I think we're going to go with a Daredevil Carnage. That's going to give us the +5 power boost in Atlantis. It's going to leave us with 1 card. We know that they have 2. Ideally, they'll play a couple of cards here this turn. That way they have initiative going into the last turn. We'll be able to hit them with the old Hazmat Spider-Woman combo to hopefully swing the game in our favor. We've lost this lane. There's nothing we can do about Nova Roma at this point. So let's go ahead and lock in that play. They do play a couple of cards here. So hopefully they have more than 3 power. That way they flip first. Hazmat is going to hit more cards than it hits for us. So they use a white queen. So they copied our Spider Woman. So they're going to be able to flip, but they flip first, which is going to be huge for us. So that means we're going to be able to do a Hazmat first, which is going to negatively impact all of their cards. So we know that it's going to impact 2 of our cards in this lane. It's going to impact at least 2 of their cards in each of their lanes. And then we can drop a Spider Woman in this one because I don't think there is a way that they're going to be able to push enough power into Atlantis to overcome this 13 power deficit. I feel like they're going to have to try to cap out the Ant-Man lane, and I feel like we're going to be able to swing this one away. I'm not going to snap just because we want to see this one play out, but the Hazmat Spider... Ooh, you do a leader. Okay, which is okay because they flip first, right? And so we are going to have more targets with our Hazmat, more targets for our Spider-Woman. We still win Atlantis. We still win Subterranea. So even though it was the leader play, we were able to get the upside, albeit just barely, because the leader duplicated both cards here. It capped out their Subterranea, so they then got an Ant-Man buff, but nonetheless, their Spider-Woman and Hazmat did not hit our 2 cards here, which was what was enough to give us that power push to stay in the lead. So our first game out, a fantastic showing from the Hazmat Spider-Woman combo. All right, so next up we have Drew, and Sinister London is beautiful for this deck list because we can really get some upside in like Debris. We can double the amount of rocks we throw their way. We can double the amount of discount we do or negatively impacting their cards with Spider-Woman, with Hazmat. So really, really pretty decent play. I think we do probably want to go with a Daredevil here. That's going to allow us to, on turn 5, kind of strategically play our Hobgoblin, if we still have space. With this, we may not have space. And so Lemuria is going to make it where Debris does not flip this turn. That's okay. Next turn, we know that we're going to get flooded with at least 2 spaces here filled up and 2 spaces here. And so then... So I think we go with the Debris and then we go with the double green goblin because I don't think they're going to have their spaces filled. Let's go ahead and snap. I like this play line. So we're going to have 2 green goblins go their way. We're going to have 2 sets of rocks. So a total of 4 rocks go their way. Their board is going to get pretty clogged pretty quickly. And we're sending them negative power. So we turn first. So we get to make sure that our rocks go off, that our green goblins go off. I'm sorry, Drew. I am so sorry. Oh, that is awful. Drew, this wasn't my idea. Please don't please don't blame me. I do like a good Debris deck, but Sinister London with it is just nasty. All right, next up we have Silent, and we do have our Hood and Viper combo. We have Debris, so I think I'm going to drop Hood into this far right lane. Next turn we'll follow it up with a Viper, and then even if this turns into like the Space Throne, then we're fine. And it doesn't look like they pulled a 1-cost card because they have 5 in hand. We had 5 in hand, and we've played a card. But we are going to play the Viper. After this, we're going to wait a minute because it looks like they're doing yard work again. So we're going to send the Viper over into their side of the board in the unknown location. The hope is that it turns out to be the Space Throne so that we can cap this out and have it completely won. Nidavellir is kind of unfortunate because that turns into a +3 power, but it's okay. It's not the worst thing that could have happened. So we are going to play our Scorpion, play our Demon. Next turn, we will play Debris here. Maybe we'll play Scorpion here, and we'll spread out our power with Demon. Demon's already a pretty high power card, and then this gives us the option to drop a Spider-Woman into this lane if we want to. Oh, so they did an Ironheart? What? Okay, and so we can do a Daredevil and a Colossus. That way we know where they're going to play on turn 5, but I think we just go with the regular Debris here. I think that's going to be more impactful and more in line with what we want to do in kind of clogging up their board. Ooh, so they have a Mr. Negative, and so they can potentially drop quite a few cards moving forward. So we can do a Green Goblin where do we think we need the green goblin? So we can send the green goblin here, or we could send the green goblin here, but I don't think they play resources into the dream dimension this turn. So we are going to go ahead and try to send the green goblin off into the dream dimension to kind of help finish clogging up the board. Ooh, so they had an Iron Man, which is awful for us because of that +5 power from Nidavellir. Ooh, and they have a Gambit, so it destroys our debris. Awkward. And so for the final turn, we do have both Hazmat and Spider-Woman. So Nidavellir is a lost cause. We are not winning Nidavellir. Do we need to drop? Depends on where they drop their power, honestly. So if they drop it into Dream Dimension, then our Hazmat is going to impact them with -4. So as long as they don't have more than 4 power that they drop here, then we win it. And here we're ahead by 5. Our Hazmat is going to impact it the same. They do have initiation though. So where do we need the power push? Where are they going to put their high power cards? In like a Devil Dino. Devil Dino is what I'm kind of anticipating here. Maybe a White Tiger. Bro, calm down. Silent, you're okay. It's going to be all right. So if we do Hazmat here, potentially gives us the upside. We're ahead there by 5. So I think if they're going to push big power, probably here would be that location. Oh, and I was wrong. So they do White Tiger, which sends a White Tiger over here, which is good. They extend the game with magic, which is not good. But they do only have 1 slot to play in. So we get the full upside from our Hazmat there. So we know that we've won Dream Dimension. We have to get... Oh, I don't think we win because they have another turn that they draw into cards. It would have to be less than 8. Silent. I'm guessing they didn't have a card that would end up being 8. So if it was a Devil Dino, unless it hadn't been hit with that inverse, it wouldn't count. They weren't able to push it out, I guess. They'd already dropped their Ironheart. So very, very fortunate that the White Tiger Spirit went here. Otherwise, it would have been a difficult win in this lane because that would have put them at 6. No, we would have won this lane. It would have put them at 6. We would have dropped our Colossus, and then we would have been ahead a little bit here. Overall, we were able to clog up their board enough that they weren't able to do a lot of really high power last turn things. So they dropped the magic as a way to kind of get a read on if they were going to win at the very end of the game. But overall, we were 3-1. The one that we lost, we accidentally retreated. We wanted to pull back in. We were thinking, and we wanted to pull back in our cards, but we accidentally retreated instead. So I don't know if we would have truly lost, but I'm going to count it as a loss since we did take a 1 cube loss. So the deck list so far is 3-1, which for a Debris style deck is insane. I typically end up spewing cubes all over the place whenever I try to run a Debris deck, but I think it's because I try to make it do too much. This one focuses on one kind of simple core concept, and that is negatively impacting the opponent's board. So sending them negative stuff, granting the upside on your side. So if you do get a negative thing, can you kill it? And then just finding a way to outpower them at the end of the game. So far, this deck list feels phenomenal. Let's go ahead and jump into a new one. All right, so next up we have the Ghostly Gengar. And in our starting hand, we do have the Daredevil and Hobgoblin combo. That's going to be a pretty big play choice for us. To push some negative things their way. We are going to play the Daredevil on 2. Hopefully we draw into either Viper or Debris for turn 3. That way we can either do the Hood and Viper, or we can do Debris. Beautiful. Just beautiful. So they played Angela, so we know that they're playing a kind of low to the ground deck. They're going to have a lot of cards, which is going to be beautiful for the last turn Hazmat Spider-Woman combo. But if we can get them to not get the extra upside of playing 1 additional card in the Angela lane, that's going to be great. So Angela is going to buff up every single time that she plays, that a card is played there. And so if we can clog that up, we reduce her power capacity greatly. And so the miniaturized lab is kind of bad for us. So we can do a couple of things here. We can just play the Spider-Woman early. We could do like a demon, or like a Hazmat and a demon, but that's a little bit early. I'd rather hold that for like a last turn type play. We could do nothing, which doesn't feel great. Turn 5, we could always do the Doc Ock to pull in more cards to give us a better target for our Hazmat Spider-Woman combo. We'd get probably 8 cards out of it. I think we just go ahead and go with Spider-Woman. As much as I would like to capitalize on Spider-Woman on the last turn, I think it's going to be better for us to drop her now. And then we're going to be able to do a hobgoblin here, depending on where they play and what they play. So they play a card, they extend the game with magic. So that means on the very last turn, we're going to be able to do something crazy like a Doc Ock plus a Hazmat to really push a lot of negative impact their way. And so that will reduce the power level of their Devil Dino quite a bit. I think we just go ahead and send the Hobgoblin over since we know that we can guarantee that it goes here. I don't think we have to worry about Titan. I think the 9 power deficit that we have there is already going to be enough to make sure that we win that one. So I'm going to focus on winning a second lane now, rather than finishing the cap of Titan. And so we do send the negative card their way. And so for turn 6, we have a Carnage, which isn't amazing, but we could always do something like Scorpion, Carnage, Demon to give us a decent shot in this left-hand lane. Next turn we can do Doc Ock, or we can do Hazmat first, and then Doc Ock. Hazmat's only going to hit 2 cards here, so we have a better chance of getting upside from the Hazmat interaction in all 3 lanes. So I think that's what we go with. What do you play in Limbo? Are you changing the Limbo location? And if so, then we win because we win the left and right. But it's kind of a sneaky play. It's just hard to do. Oh my gosh. No, that is a 1 out of 3 chance. No. Oh my god. Guys, I'm in disbelief at that. How? Oh, Gengar, you and your deceitful, ghostly ways. Okay, so if we do Hazmat now, we tie the impact here, we get more impact here, but we lose power overall here because currently we're winning somehow. We could do something like that. This all feels awful, guys. How do we win here? I don't have a great answer. We could pull additional cards and make sure that they cap this one out. So if they pull 3, it's not great either. We can make sure we win this lane and try to compete here. It all feels so bad, guys. And it really depends on where they push their power. I think we lose. I think we lose this one because of that beautiful Arnim Zola play. We're gonna go ahead and go, wow, thumbs up. So we are going to do our Doc Ock here. I think that should be enough to keep us in the lead in this lane. They do a Moon Girl. So is that, oh no way. How? Oh my gosh, we got so fortunate that we had the 6 power Carnage, the 6 power Demon that we had dropped just before the double Hobgoblin went off. Just awful. And so then they opted to push for a Moon Girl to make sure their Devil Dino was buffed up. So luckily they didn't put a whole lot of power into this lane. Even if they had stacked their Moon Girl and their Cable, it wouldn't have been enough. Just, oh, so very fortunate. That could have went south so many different ways. That does leave us with another win, so now we are 4-1. All right, so next up we have Cal, and we do have our Hood, our Viper. We have Colossus, which is going to be good in the negative zone. I don't know, I kind of like the idea of playing Hood and then follow that up with a Viper on turn 2 so that we have this in the unknown location. And then we do have Colossus. Otherwise, our Viper would end up being 0. I like the idea of having a -5 Hood over here, but if they end up being able to destroy it, then that feels really, really bad. And we do draw into our Daredevil. So on turn 3, we're going to be able to drop Daredevil and Demon to push some power and to get that insight on turn 5. So we have a pretty good shot here. They haven't played anything, and so 1, 2, and 3 cost cards can't be played here. It's a good thing we already sent the Hood over. We don't have a whole lot of great cards that fit into the Crimson Cosmos here, so I think we play our Demon into Wakanda just in case they're running something that does have a Killmonger. And then we're going to, do we play our Daredevil into the negative zone? with the anticipation that we'll play a couple more cards, we will eat those cards with our Carnage, then follow that up with a Colossus, which can't be negatively impacted in the negative zone. I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait until either on turn 5 or after to eat the cards with our Carnage. Ew, why would you do that, good sir? That's not very nice. Actually, we can do the Colossus this turn. We don't have to worry about that piece. We are going to be able to tell what they drop next turn. We can either go with a Doc Ock to pull more of their cards in. So a Devil Dino and a Green Goblin here. Interesting. So we do have Hazmat that we're going to be able to play on turn 6. So they play Star-Lord and they play Mystique. So they're going to have a pretty big Mystique that copied their Devil Dino's ability. So us being able to pull in as many cards as possible is going to be incredibly beneficial. So if we can force them to pull the rest of their 4 cards into the negative zone, not only is that a negative 12 power swing in the negative zone as long as they don't change the location, but it's going to be a huge power deficit to their Mystique and their Devil Dino here. And so that is what we are going to go with, and that's what we're going to lock in. We're going to force both of these cards to currently be 0, unless they have a way to push in a lot of power really quickly. So we pull in a Doombot, which is not great. A Moon Girl, which doesn't hit anything. They do generate a Sentinel in hand, so they have that working for them. And then a White Tiger, so we almost completely cap out their board. And so they're probably going to end with a Sentinel here, which would end up forcing it to be 4 power that we have to come up over. Unfortunately, we don't draw into our Spider-Woman, and so we are really restricted in what we can play here. They're just going to have this lane locked down. The Doombot was huge. The Doombot was huge for them here. So I think a Sentinel will put them to 14. It'll keep this and this at 4 each. So 14 is what we have to come up over. I don't think we can necessarily do it. So Hazmat is going to, they have initiation. So Hazmat is going to do a negative 4 power swing here. We're going to eat it with our Carnage. Oh wait, we can't. That'll leave them at 10. Even if we were able to eat our cards with Carnage, it wouldn't be enough, unfortunately. So we're going to say, good game, I'm confident, and we are going to retreat out of this one. We don't need to see it play out. We know that we've lost. There's no way for us to push enough power. So the Doombot helped him out quite a bit. The Sentinel was large in making sure that their Mystique and their Devil Dino came back up. Overall, very good game, Cal. It was very close. Had the Green Goblin not been there, had a couple of things went a little bit differently, it could have been an entirely different game. But very good game nonetheless. We will take our loss and we will go. All right, so next up we have Kenendine. And we have our Hobgoblin and our Doc Ock in our starting hand. We have Hazmat, Green Goblin. So we're going to be able to negatively impact their board quite a bit. And then we have our Spider-Woman too. So we have a lot of our late game cards. We just need to figure out the best way to use them. And so they'd use a Korg and an Iceman. I would be a little bit concerned about a Beast play here and then pulling that card back into their hand with Beast. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and just drop the Hood and Viper into Hell's Kitchen. Next turn we can either do Green Goblin or we can do Spider-Woman if we feel the need to play her early. Although I like the Doc Ock into the turn 6 Hazmat Spider-Woman combo. I think it's pretty versatile. And so we can do Hobgoblin, or we can do Green Goblin here, which I think we do. So on turn 5, all cards will have to be played here. So it doesn't matter if we get the early read from Daredevil. So I'm going to go ahead and play Green Goblin on the left-hand side. We're going to play our Demon into the Isle of Silence. And then next turn, probably end up playing our Doc Ock to pull in the most possible cards. And it really depends on what they play here. Okay, so Warpath. So maybe they do have like a Falcon and they're going to pull those cards back in. Maybe we do something like a Debris to push more rocks here and here. Unless they're going to pull them back in is my big concern now. And so we either do Debris so that we have a better Hazmat play on turn 6, or we do Doc Ock so that we can have a better guarantee play. But I think what we're going to do, I think we like the Debris Daredevil combo here. And unfortunately, we are going to have initiative going into the last turn, which is always feels pretty bad. because we want to hit as many targets with Hazmat as possible. Ooh, we are not going to have initiative going into the last turn. So they dropped a claw. So where do we need to drop our power? So we're winning this lane by 5. We're Kinendine. Okay, so what we were going to do a Hazmat first, followed by a Spider Woman. Each lane we were going to benefit from. So we already benefit by 1 power level here, 1 power level here. Whatever they drop here would give us the upside to impact them more than it impacts us. And then we could cap that out with a Spider Woman. So more than likely we were going to end up going something like Hazmat here, Spider Woman here. And then if they didn't drop any cards here, it would end up that we would tie this lane. But overall, this deck list is feeling phenomenal. That is 5 and 2, which for a Debris, for a junk style deck is not terrible. Of course, we haven't went against any like Deadpool, which when they run a Killmonger is going to really stifle this deck quite a bit. And because they push so much power on the last turn, it stifles it quite a bit. Or any kind of destruction deck really limits the capability of this deck. So we got pretty lucky in our matchups. But 5 and 2, that's not bad for a Debris style deck. This feels pretty fun. It feels like it has most of the answers that we always felt like we were missing for our Debris deck. And so overall, very, very fun list. If you get things like Cloning Vats or Sinister London, things can get really nutty really, really fast by dropping your Debris. Of course, adding in a Black Widow is going to feel good as well, because 1, you can clog up their hand, 2, you can force them to play that card onto the board, which is of course going to be another target that we can negatively impact with Hazmat, and it limits their space of play. Just Debris is going to be a phenomenal add here. Overall, fantastic deck list. Thank you so much, Aaron Bailey, for suggesting it. Thank you guys for upvoting this one. This one feels great. It's a great way to kick off the user suggested deck of the week. And so if you guys have a deck list that you want to see me play, drop it in the comment section down below. And then the one that gets the most likes is the one that I will play for next week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.